Mayo Clinic has done studies that have proven when we combine our exercise with social play, it will add 20% longevity to our lives. So if all you can do is get to the gym and lift weights or run on the treadmill, you should absolutely do that. I'm not saying stop going to the gym. I'm saying go to the gym and once or twice a week, play social sports, play soccer, play basketball, play tennis or pickleball, because that will add longevity to your life. We need that time for our brains, for our bodies. The power is huge.
All right, welcome back to the Better Human podcast. Today we got Kristi Harold. How are you?
I'm great, Greg. Thanks a lot for having me.
It's amazing to have you. And for the audience, a real sort of, universal circle back in life. So we were just sort of rapping and chatting before the show, and I looked at Kristi and I was like, I know you from somewhere. And she's like, I know you from somewhere. And we sort of pointed it back. We sat next to each other on a flight flying back from Costa Rica. So she is also an individual that spent some time in Costa. And what a small world, huh?
Such a small world, crazy. And I've seen you've had a lot of my friends on your show as well. Some great people, Laurie Gassner-Outing and Dave Asprey and Chandler Bolt. Awesome crew you've had on your show.
They're all awesome, and you're right up there with them all. So what Kristi does, by the way, her company is called Jam, and Jam is a pretty cool organization. I think what I like about today's conversation is it fits within the world of where I live, as the audience knows, which is a lot of leadership development and executive coaching. But your organization helps people bring play into the work culture, very much specifically through sports and different types of activities. And in today's world, I mean, after the pandemic, trying to get people back into the office and to connect and to build relationships and stuff, I could see the importance of not just, doing this as a fun little activity for the organization, but to really integrate this kind of exercising and activity and philosophy into these organizations. So I want to start with this. Where did this all begin for you? How did Jam begin?
So it was originally called the Toronto Sport and Social Club. Started it back in 1996. I had heard about sport and social clubs in the US and thought I'd moved to Toronto. I'm a small town girl originally from Sudbury, had gone to university in Kingston, and then moved to Toronto, didn't know a lot of people. Thought this would be a fun thing to try and start up. I wanted to work for myself and wasn't really expecting it to become what it has. I just initially started it as a lifestyle business, and for 20 years ran it that way, had 3 kids, produced a lot of charity musical theater throughout in that time, and just grew this business of connecting people through the playing of recreational sports, all sorts of different sports, basketball, volleyball, flag football, ultimate frisbee, softball, soccer, you name it. And then about 20 years in, I decided I really wanted to grow. My kids didn't want me coming on their field trips anymore. They wanted, they were growing up. I decided I had a little more energy to put into growing the business. And so we started doing acquisitions. We've now expanded. Pre-pandemic, we were in about 11 cities. We're now in about 15 or 16 cities. And when the pandemic hit, and my vision in 2016 became, I wanted to get 1 million people playing through. That became the goal. Is what would it like? That's a legacy I just feel excited about because it makes me happy to see people playing because of the work we do. So 1 million people playing every year became the vision. And when the pandemic hit, in our Canadian regions, we were shut down hard. We lost about 18 months of revenue. So in order to survive, we pivoted. We looked at how can we help people connect through play differently. And we started doing corporate team building events virtually initially. We did over 1,500 events for companies all around the world in that first year. And now we're doing virtual events, hybrid events, in-person events. My team was in Idaho last week. They were in Victoria, BC the week before. We're doing in-person events everywhere. So we're connecting corporate teams with virtual and in-person events playfully. And then we've recently, I wrote my book, It Pays to Play, How Play Improves Business Culture, through the pandemic, because I saw the power that this was having for corporate teams to connect and have some laughs together, foster friendships. So I wrote this book, and now we're launching corporate consulting. So we're helping companies integrate playfulness into their day-to-day. It's like, as you say, having a corporate sports team is super powerful, but there are a lot of ways to have fun and be playful at work all throughout the workday. You don't have to stop just to play volleyball. There are loads of ways to have fun, whether you're remote or in person. So that's the quick synopsis for you.
it's interesting in the sense that your business really scaled and call it exploded because of the pandemic, right? I mean, you were forced into a new business model.
Yeah.
Um,
In May of 2020, if you had told me I'm going to be grateful, I would have thought you were crazy, and I would have probably yelled and cried and screamed at you. I was not a very happy person. But looking back, I'm actually incredibly grateful because it forced us. We thought we were diversified. We were running sports leagues in 11 different cities. Well, you can't diversify against a global pandemic, I learned, and so now we are truly diversified. Now we have our sports leagues are back up and running full throttle. I've got another acquisition in the works. We just had our biggest spring and summer season of sports, and we're in the midst of our biggest fall season ever. So that part's back. And then we've got this new corporate side of the business we never would have had. And I have written a book, which I never would have done had it not been for the pandemic. So I'm actually, incredibly grateful for the challenges it put forth to us.
Yeah, I relate to your story a lot. As a training business, we were all live rooms, right? It was all based on live. And if you said to me before the pandemic, would you ever do deliveries through Zoom? I'd be like, you're out of your mind. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way, right? You need to be live. And then we got the phone calls. I remember that week. It was just one client after the next being like, hi, we got to cancel the upcoming training. Hi, we got to pull the person out the room. Like
Mm.
just for 2 weeks, and then we'll circle back. And we went to zero in revenue. And at that point, we sat down and said, okay, well, F it. Let's just kind of, we got nothing to do, but do it anyway. So let's just call everyone up and start to do and continue the delivery and do it on the honor system, right? If clients didn't have revenue and they still wanted to send people for training, do it. And if they could
Amazing.
spend a little bit, awesome. And if not, let's just go to work. And we launched this thing called Coffee Fridays, and we instantly saw this need for people to connect even more so, right? So, but for us as well, we would have never have scaled if it wasn't for us now having to adopt more virtual delivery because it does give you more access, right?
And now are you back doing both now?
Back doing both, yeah. And it's interesting, depending on whether it's in the US or Canada. Canada came on pretty full steam about maybe, call it 6 to 8 months ago. But up until then, it was kind of far and few between for live sessions, but still heavy on the virtual. But what I also started to notice was clients are battling to get people into the office, right? I mean, the whole idea of people coming back and I was in sessions all week this week, and the word of entitlement just kept on popping up. Like, people are entitled. They expect to be able to work remotely. They expect blah, blah, blah. And I said, we need to change the topic. I think our responsibilities and our responsibility as organizations and leaders is to drive people back into group environments, right? We need to almost reteach how to socialize and how to connect. And this isn't to say we need to, and you're from Toronto, so you could appreciate the morning traffic and the afternoon traffic. No one wants to be a slave 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But what do you do to start to build that community? It's a very community sort of driven thing. And that's where team sports comes in, right? So before we go there, I mean, were sports big in your life? Is this like, did you grow up in sports?
Yeah, I was actually I was an elite ski racer, believe it or not. Like so I traveled the world ski racing. What's that?
I said, I do believe you.
So I traveled the world ski racing, and then I quit ski racing at the end of high school, went off to university, and I didn't actually play intramurals in university, which is kind of funny that now that's my career, is running basically intramurals for young professionals. But I did play, like I was on the ski team, I was on the rowing team, so I did sports. And then when I moved to Toronto, I had heard about ultimate frisbee, and I really wanted to play ultimate frisbee. And I decided then, like, I loved the spirit of the game of ultimate frisbee and how it's a self-officiated sport. And I thought, why not do this with all our sports? Like, why can't basketball players be self-officiated, and flag football players be self-officiated, and softball and soccer? And so that when I launched Sport and Social Club, now Jam, back in 1996, everything was self-officiated. We've now since grown. We have we have hundreds of thousands of people playing every year. So now we have a wide variety of, recreational kickball up to, elite basketball, like from mixed gender, single sex. Like, we've got a wide variety of offerings. So there's sort of literally something for everybody now, which is pretty great.
Cool. So, what are some of the most popular sports? And just for the audience, just so you're super clear on this, what Jam helps you do is bring these types of sports teams, activities into your organization, not just from a conference standpoint, like once a year, but to start to build into your activities on a regular basis. So, talk to us a little bit about what are some of the more popular sports and plays that you bring into organizations.
Soccer is a big one, and soccer, it's year round in all the cities we operate in because we can play indoor in turf facilities. We volleyball is huge, indoor court volleyball during the fall and winter, and then outdoor beach volleyball spring and summer, huge. Everyone loves that. And then we have a lot of sports growing quickly. Kickball, which is really big in the US, was never that big in Canada because I think as kids in Canada, we used to call it soccer baseball.
Yeah.
But it's called kickball in the US. And so anyway, we only really started offering it in our Canadian markets, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years before the pandemic. And it's really growing because it's super fun. You don't have to be no one grew up being an elite level kickball player. Like you played it in gym class. So it's a super inviting sport. Curling's a really popular one in the wintertime. Pickleball's taking off. I mean, pretty much all the sports we offer, they all fill up and we're always looking for new offerings. We sort of try and bob and weave and see what could be next. And I remember, I was sitting around the lunchroom table with some of my team. 4 of my teammates grew up in India, and they all grew up playing what they called gully cricket. And I was like, what is this gully cricket? And we've never offered cricket. And I said, I've always wanted to offer cricket, but it's such a long game and you need a big field and it's really hard to offer. And so my teammates, Tanisha and Apurva and Sarthak, and they were like, oh, no, it's really easy. Like you call it gully cricket, and it's like what we used to play in the schoolyard. And so it was sort of the end of the summer season. We just threw it up as a just to offer it. But I think next spring, we're going to try and really get that going because there are lots of people living in, North America now who maybe grew up in a different part of the world. South Africa, you probably would have grown up playing some cricket, right? And so it's like we're always trying to find different ways to get more people playing. And I loved what you said about the corporate side of getting team sports happening is especially now where we are feeling challenged to get people in the office. I mean, personally, I like working from home too. Like, I don't want to go into the office every day. I get it. But there is something to be said about the in-person connection. And so we also have realized we can run really productive businesses where people don't necessarily have to be in the office. So having a company sports team is a brilliant way to say, okay, we're not going to have you come back to the office 5 days a week. We'd like you to be in 1 or 2 days a week. And we're going to offer, a Tuesday night beach volleyball team and a Thursday night soccer team and a Wednesday night kickball team. Choose to sign up for one if you like. Make it optional. I never force fun on anyone because that's not fun. Make it optional and then see what happens. And what will happen is your team of employees, you'll have someone from marketing and someone from finance and someone from, HR joining a team and playing Tuesday night volleyball together. And they start to foster friendships with each other. They're not in the office, but they're fostering friendships. So then their meetings the next day there's more vulnerability and trust between them because they've gotten to know each other as humans. And they get to know each other cross silos, like cross departmentally. They get to know each other in different hierarchies. Like you can have someone in your C-suite playing on a softball team with someone that's a junior intern. Sometimes that's scary for an intern to talk to and learn from. But if they're playing on the same softball team, everyone's just playing, right? And so it's a really powerful tool and playful, fun, healthy physically, healthy mentally. And lastly, I will say there are loads of ways to do this, have inclusive opportunities that don't necessarily have to be sports team because sports also isn't for everybody. You could have a book club that can be done virtually or in person, that you meet once every 2 months. You read a book, which we do at Jam. You read a book, you learn from the book, you discuss the book over a lunch hour together. You could have a company choir or a company rock band. So you meet once every 2 weeks, and you rehearse and play music together. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sports, but this idea of having some playful connection opportunities that allow those friendships to foster are incredibly powerful and will increase the engagement and the productivity of your team during the workday when they have friends at work.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You'll probably end up having those, what might be in quotations, casual meetings, the stuff that like we're meeting during the week that we end up chatting about on the sidelines, at the pitch, at the field, and be like, by the way, let me ask you a question, blah blah blah. And I've always remembered this. I have a client that he says, there's something about creative chaos and creative interruption, which is being around each other and being like, hey, can I borrow you for a second? You're like, oh, you're disturbing me. What is it? And it was through that moment we end up in a dialogue and a conversation, and the next thing you know, we're sitting at the table and we're going back and forth, and then the idea comes out, right? So
it's like how gully cricket came to be, right? Like we didn't, like, had we not had that little banter, playfully bantering over lunch, like I wouldn't have known we could offer cricket. And so I totally agree with you. These sparks that ignite just from that playful connection, you just don't know what can come of it, and the cost is so minimal. And the other thing that's really interesting about social sports, the Mayo Clinic has done studies that have proven when we combine our exercise with social play, it will add 20% longevity to our lives. So if all you can do is get to the gym and lift weights or run on the treadmill, you should absolutely do that. I'm not saying stop going to the gym. I'm saying go to the gym and once or twice a week, play social sports, play soccer, play basketball, play tennis or pickleball, because that will add longevity to your life. So what we actually talk to a lot of corporate organizations about is this idea of mindfulness is health and wellness in the workplace, or it's big, right? It's and fantastic. It tends to be very individually focused. So we're going to give our employees the opportunity to have a health club membership, or we're going to give them the opportunity to have a mindfulness app so they can meditate by themselves. What about giving them the opportunity to play social sports so that they can have social connections? Or even if you don't want to organize a company team, get credits by, like, instead of just letting them use their health benefits towards a health club, what if they could use it so they could sign up for an organization like JAM? And by the way, there are organizations like JAM all over North America. Loads, whatever city you're in, there is an adult rec sports league in that city. And let them sign up for a season, use their credit for that, because that social, the mental health benefit they get from combining exercise with a social sport is hugely powerful. It really helps with anxiety and depression. And I mean, we had a woman.
People running around aren't depressed and don't have anxiety, right? It's when we're sitting around for too long, right? So that's the joke in all of that, right? Totally agree with you.
Yeah, we had a woman. I love this story. About probably 3 or 4 years before the pandemic, one of my teammates on our customer service team forwarded me an email, and the email was from a woman. Her name was Emily. She lived in Toronto. She said, I want to thank you for the work you and your team are doing at JAM. Your leagues saved my life. Turns out she had been new to the city, didn't know anyone. Someone from her company invited her to join a soccer team. She didn't play a lot of soccer, but she was like so anxious, so depressed, so lonely. She thought she had nothing to lose. She went out for this soccer team with her company team. She made all these new friends, and she was just like, this is the best thing ever. Like, this literally saved my life, because she was that down. And it's a really powerful thing. And you don't need to be good. Like, you don't have to have ever played the sport before. We have something like beginners are welcome in every single sport we offer. And that's the same for most adult rec sports leagues I know of across North America are very welcoming for beginners.
1,000%. It's just natural. You want to invite people in, and when it's these types of leagues, I mean, we have pickleball down in my development where we live in Costa Rica, and every night, Monday through literally, I'm going to say Friday, but more to Thursday, from 5 to 8 p.m., people go down to the pickleball court. And whether you've played before, not played before, you have a court booked, you don't have a court booked, you end up, and we were sitting around the other day and we looked back and there must have been 75 people there, socializing, chatting, sharing, playing, and back to pickleball. It's like a really low bar for entry. Although there's a lot of injuries with pickleball because people get a little too excited. But it's. I was chatting with the owners of the development, and they were like, "Look, we've lived here for a long time, and for us, this is a dream to see." The people coming together, the community coming together, being around each other, playing with each other, developing this bond and this connection. And this is what we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. You know, people would be more motivated to go into the office if I had a bunch of friends there. I'm excited to go in and see people.
Exactly. It's like when you were a kid going to school, were you happy going to school if you didn't have friends there? No. But if you had friends, you were excited to get to school. It didn't matter that you had a test that day. You were still excited to get to school because you knew you'd play with your friend at recess. That doesn't change just because we grow up, right? Friendship is a really important social, like that social connection is incredibly powerful. And to your point of pickleball, I am actually nursing a rotator cuff injury right now. I was actually at a conference last week in California, a conference of global entrepreneurs, and Adam Franklin, who is the president of Franklin Sports, they're huge into pickleball. Franklin does all the paddles and the nets. They sponsored tons of. Adam was there. He brought pickleball paddles for all of us. So I was so bummed that I couldn't play. I was like, you know what? I'm playing. I just went out and played with my left hand, and I'm a spaz, but I got it done. I could still get out and play and have some laughs with people. And we had about 3 weeks ago, I hosted a business meeting for a women in business group that we meet once every 2 months. And I said, ladies, we're starting with pickleball. And they were like, what? Like, I've never played. And I said, doesn't matter. We're going to start. And this is what we do at Jam. We can organize for corporate teams. You're going to have a big meeting. Let us get you together for a game of pickleball first, or cornhole, or, bocce, or whatever. Like, let us host some fun play for an hour, and then watch how powerfully your meetings go. And all the girls in my business group were like, that was the best meeting ever, because we played for an hour first. It just gets everyone, it gets your energy out, it gets you just jazzed to kind of, I don't know, it's just, there's a really powerful dopamine release that happens when you play and laugh with people. And it was the most engaging meeting we've had.
It's tribal. It goes back to some our very core sort of, core needs, which is to run around and play with people. If you look at all culture, you look at tribes, right? One of the a thing that you will see 99.99999% of the time is community members playing together, usually through some sort of sport. Look, I grew up, as I was saying, in South Africa. You grow up running around with no shoes and kicking some sort of little ball around. And it's funny because, I can't tell you how many times I'm with a bunch of buddies, and specifically in the environment we live, which is the beach, and you pull out a ball or you pull out a Frisbee, and within 3.5 minutes, there's a game going on. And then eventually that game goes into some sort of competition.
Yeah.
And one time I'm there, and we're at what's known as the beach club. It's very, very quiet. Bunch of strangers sitting around. No one knows each other, right? Probably, half Spanish, half English. And I get a ball. I don't know how I found this ball, but I got a ball. The next thing you know, we're in this little circle, and we're in the pool. And next thing you know, there's like 20 people around, and the game became, how many times can you keep the ball in the air? This went on for hours, and people were laughing and playing and connecting, and you had kids and you had grandparents, and it was fun. So I totally love what you do, and I think it's so important, considering the fact that part of the mental health crisis, in my own opinion, has a lot to do with the fact that we are too willing to be isolated and sit behind screens all day and not engage as we used to. And
and the fact that gym class has been cut in schools, like, crazy. What's that all about? It's just such a huge issue. Our kids are on screens more. Our kids and us, by the way, we are all on our screens far more than we ever used to be on our devices. And it's it's a missing piece that is incredibly powerful, to just because you can't help but when you're playing, again, whether you're playing a guitar or a piano, or you're playing a board game, or you're playing a game of soccer or volleyball or kickball, whatever you're playing, your devices are away. You can't help but be in the moment. You get into a flow state, and it's that we need that time for our brains, for our bodies. The power is huge in doing that.
And I think way more effective. Look, I come from a world of doing conference, like go to the conference, facilitate it. And what you do is you do the team building activities, right? And they're fun. They're really fun, but they're very short lived, right? So, you think about like the art teacher that comes in and everyone draws and paints at the same time. And it's fun for the hour. And then you do the dinner and then you do the drinks. And then the next morning you're in the meeting again, right? And then there are the conferences that had some sort of activity, some sort of sports activity, right? Very simply, think about go-karting, right? That was a big one at conferences, right? Go-karting. And the ones that did it well, which is kind of what you said earlier, before we go into the meeting, let's do the play thing first, because most conferences will do it in reverse. Let's get into work, right? The strategy, the planning, the presenting, the updates, the this, and now let's go play. And you could see the difference in the dynamic of meetings and the outcomes of those conversations. So for the audience, right, reverse the order, play first and then meet later.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be at a conference. It can be every meeting you have with your team. Take 3 to 5 minutes and have a playful connection before you start your meeting. Ask a funny question. What was your favorite cereal when you were a kid? I mean, I'm just coming, like, who, do anchovies belong on pizza? Like, well, I don't know, like, get an opinion. Are you a crumpler or a folder when you use toilet paper? Like, get a little bit of playful banter with the 3 people in your meeting or the 6 people in your meeting. Take that time to have some laughs and then watch how the energy is improved and people are much more engaged and they start to get to know each other as people when you get sort of that human banter. Every meeting we have at Jam, we try and really start with that connect before content and a playful connect, ideally.
Yeah, I see your office as being like a fun factory, right? Foosball and like, indoor volleyball, indoor pickleball court. We got our own.
We do have a ping pong table that is actively used, which is a lot of fun. It doesn't collect dust. If you have a ping pong table in your office and it's collecting dust, that's a little virtue signaling. You got to use those ping pong tables and foosball tables and, get them in action.
Correct. You ever have clients? Actually, I got 2 questions. One is about when a company is not big enough. Like, I could see this really working with organizations that have a large amount of people, right? But what happens with the small entrepreneur shop, which is like, 4 people in the office, and there's not enough people for a full game? How do they participate?
Challenge your oh my gosh, clients. Like, go to a client and say, hey, we're going to have a virtual trivia lunch and laugh next Wednesday. Do you want to, we're challenging your team, your company against our company, or bond together to put in a corporate sports team, or bond together to have a book club together. There's so many ways to think outside the box. And my book the appendix is filled with ideas of playful connections. It doesn't actually need to cost a lot of money, if any money. It's all about how you playfully recognize teammates. When they have anniversaries or do great work, what are you doing to celebrate that? Because there are a lot of playful ways we can do things that help, with the way we run our day-to-day meetings, with the way we recognize loyalty, with that will help with retention and engagement and productivity and creativity. When we have our conference where we bring our full team together, it's called Jamboree, for a 2-day session. And last year, everyone gets together because I have people, all over the world. My head of sales lives in Paris, France. My head of finance lives in Calgary. I've got a big team in Michigan and all over Ontario. So we get together for Jamboree, and we wanted to have some work sessions and some play sessions. But one of our work sessions was actually a brainstorming session. But instead of just having like kind of we gamified it. We made it a Shark Tank session. And so you had to pitch your brainstorm to the sharks on stage. And so, it's just a way of gamifying things that if you think creatively, you can make work really fun. And I'm not, so like, the work has to get done. We have to get our real work done, but you can have a little fun with it while you're doing it and watch the engagement go through the roof, and watch your turnover really get reduced, because people don't want to leave a place where they're having fun and where they have friends.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. And to that point, the leader or the organization doesn't have to sort of take this on themselves, right? There's an organization out there, i.e. Jam, that could come and do this for you. So take the pressure off. You actually have a gift for the audience, which is 10 ideas to integrate play at work. You got a playbook for it, plus a 25% discount off any Jam event with your team if you want to book it in the future. The link, actually, and we're going to post it in the notes later, and I'll also share it again later. But the link very now, if you could write fast to the audience, is Kristi Harold, KristiHarold.com/betterhuman-podcast. So if you're able to write that down, awesome. If not, rewind. And if not, we'll just put that in the show notes for you, and we'll mention it again later. Kristi, a couple more questions, which is, you've built a very successful organization. I was looking at some of your credentials. You've got an amazing awards around culture, around best inspired companies. What's your advice for leaders today when it comes down to driving high performance teams and building this connection? Maybe just generally, what can we do to just be better leaders? No pun intended.
I would say, I think, take your business seriously, but not yourself. Have some fun with the work you're doing, because we all spend a lot of time at work, and life's too short not to have some laughs. I think I really believe that workplace is missing the letter Y. It should be spelled work play, PLAYCE. Like, have a little work, have a little play in your workplace, and watch, if you lead from that position of let's have some fun with the work we're doing, watch your productivity, your profitability, your retention, watch it all just go through the roof. It's a really powerful tool. I've got employees who left for more, bigger salaries, better career opportunities, and have come back for culture. I've had 2 employees with a third who's called and wants to come back. Like, this is really powerful. It works.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the number one things that an organization, at least in my world, is trying to achieve, is a great culture. And I often sort of push back to them. I say, you don't need to worry about the culture if you built a great community. And that's kind of what you're doing, right? People want to come
foster friendships.
They want to come back to that village and be like, these are the people I want to be around. This is where I want to spend my time. Time is precious, right? You don't get it back.
If you ask Sandeep and Taylor why did they want to come back, they both specifically said, because at Jam, people care about each other as friends. And where they had gone, no one cared about each other. So fostering friendships, creating community within your organization is really powerful. I wouldn't call it a family. We're not a family. We're a team, to be clear. Like family, you get unconditional love. On a team, you have to perform. You still have to get your job done. So that's important, but you have friends. When you play sports on a team, you're friends with these people. So there's room for friendship on a team, and fostering that really helps. People want to help out their friends, right? If someone's looking stressed, or they're like, hey, can I help you? You look like you're overloaded. Do you need some help? And if you don't have friends inside your organization, people they're not going to lean in to try and offer help. They're just going to focus on getting their own job done and checking out at the end of the day. Whereas when you've got that kind of community, people care about each other. They want to help each other, and it really helps the whole organization.
It becomes part of the purpose, right? We start to serve something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
For the audience, drop some of your links if they want to get more information on Jam, if they wanted to check out your book, if they want to start to follow you on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the other fancy social platforms, whatever you want. Let us know how we could get in touch and start to connect with you.
So my website is KristiHarold.com, KristiHerold.com. And my book is there, but my book is available on Amazon. The book is called It Pays to Play, How Play Improves Business Culture. And then Jam, is the best website would be jamgroup.com, JAM group. And at the Jam Group website, there's an opportunity to look into the sports leagues through whatever city, region you're in, or through the corporate events and our culture consulting. You can reach out to us there if you're looking for help on how to make work a little more playful and fun. We'd love to help.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And for the audience, again, if you want to get that playbook with 10 ideas to, bring some more play into your workplace, kristiharold.com/betterhuman-podcast. And we'll also put that in the show notes for you. Kristi, at the end of the episode, we come to the most important question, which is, what do you think we could all do to be better humans tomorrow?
Make some time for play. I'm a big believer that if a little play every day keeps the doctor away. Have some fun with your kids, with your significant other, with your colleague at work. Have a laugh. Make a little time, 5-10 minutes to play a game of cards, to go outside and throw a ball around. You'll feel like a kid again, and it just re-energizes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother business model, by the way. It's a multi-million-dollar idea, which is how to play with your spouse more.
I'm working on my own spouse. I'm constantly like, do you want to play cribbage with me? Do you want to play? I got cards made, like the cover of my book, so it says it pays to play on my deck of cards. So I'm constantly like, come on, let's play. There's always, you can always play something.
Cool. Well, that could also be a great little product of yours, right? Which is a set of cards with all these ideas.
Absolutely. It's a good one. Like that.
To the audience, if you like today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Go and follow Kristi Harold. Go and check out Jam if you're looking to bring some play into your organization. And to all my clients out there that might just be listening to this, if you wanted to chat with Kristi, reach out to me. I can get you an introduction for you and chat about your cultural needs at your organizations. To the rest, stay happy, stay healthy, and we will see you next week.